the thought process of life after divorce is one where a lot of persons get a little bit lost. There is a funny thing about being married, particularly when you've been married for as long as I was. One of the things that kind of shocked me was for the largest part of my adult life, I was married. And can you imagine being married for 24 years short one day? Well, technically, I guess I was still married because I would have been married until I was divorced, even though I walked away from the marriage a day before the 24th anniversary. That did not make me become unmarried. It was the absolute that would have done that job. But the thought process is when you've been married for so long, good or bad, and you've been invested in that type of a lifestyle, suddenly becoming single, it's shocking. And so today I want to talk about this life, because when young people get married and they trade in their solo life for married life, it comes with a lot of things. And as you grow, even though you're a young adult and you figure I'm all grown up, you don't know how much growing you still have left to do. And so even as I continued to grow, I just automatically swapped one cloak of responsibility for another. And you can imagine, I got married thinking I would have somebody to share my heavy load with, and thinking that my burdens would not be as great, only to discover that it became even more cumbersome and wore me down. So as I journeyed through marriage, and the question has been asked, but it was easily answered, to be honest. Why stay for 24 years? Bless a day. You know, there's a easy answer for the beginning of the question, why stay? So having gotten married in December, I fell pregnant in April of the following year. Can you imagine? I was at that point in April where things were not looking like it was going to work out. I was questioning my decision and beginning to seek out ways to distance myself from this marriage, i.e. divorce. And voila, I fell pregnant. I cried, I must be honest. It was one of the most devastating occurrences. There was a wife of a pastor, and dare I say, she was a friend. She said to me, oh, the Lord knows that a lot of you professional women will never get pregnant unless He intervenes. And I'm sure the Lord really knew what He was doing, because had I not been interrupted on my journey, I certainly think that falling pregnant bit, it might never have occurred. So I found myself pregnant, and it shifted all of my thoughts. Because I grew up in a household with a single mother who was less than I expected a mother to be, or I needed a mother to be, and because I rejected for my doings the fact that any child of mine should grow up in a single parent household, was just too hard, and it should not be my gift to my child. I certainly did not become a parent on my own, so I should not be a mother raising a child on my own. So that kind of cemented my decision to remain married. Make the best of it, I said. You know, I was kind of mulling over as I prepared to do this video, and one of the thoughts that came to me was the fact that even as things became progressively worse, I resigned myself to my condition. I said, this is my lot and my part. I chose it and I'll have to stick it through. Now, it is only human when you are trying to find an escape that you begin to wish the demise of your spouse to easily get out of this entrapment. And God is good. That was not God's plan for his life. So I'm happy that did not happen. And as I reflect even further, if he had met some demise, whether by ill health or accident or anything else, I would still be stuck with him. I'd be his widow. I would still be connected to the in-laws. Yeah, not the best outcome. So again, God knows best. So what happened next? So I went through all of the different phases, realized that if things were supposed to happen, I had to make them happen. And even though the contention that most people might take away is that it was the earnings are the part that make me feel the most stressed. Some other people, it might have been the lack of attention, the fact that he was gone more than he was home, the fact that he did not have the connectivity to the family. I'll give you a simple example. After you've been married 5, 6, 10, 15 years, I believe that you don't need to be reminding the person you're married to that anniversary is coming up. We need to make a plan. My birthday is coming up. Hope you're doing something. Valentine's Day is coming up. What are we going to do? After a few years, it's supposed to be a staple on the chart. It was not. So those are the things. It's the life things. It's the things. It's just life. It's life. It's loving. It's caring. It's simply, can you accompany me to the supermarket? The answer more than likely was always no. You can take a taxi up to the gate, and if I'm home, I will meet you and take the things out of the vehicle. Easy enough, right? But somehow, some of those strangest things used to be the things that bothered me. I used to love seeing the couples in the supermarket shopping together. And that was an image I had for myself. That was love for me. But hey, love doesn't happen the way it happens for everybody. So here I am, still learning. My big reason though for doing today's video is talking about this life post divorce. So as I walked out of that situation and the gentleman filed his paperwork in the Supreme Court without my knowledge, I found myself free. And what was I going to be doing with that freedom? In all honesty, not much changed. I didn't really have a physical husband because he was more gone than there. So it was just me knowing that I'd go to my bed and I would sleep alone. That part was a little difficult because it was something that took some getting used to, and I'd now gotten used to it, and now it was no longer. But hey, that part is easily fixed with pillows. So what else? Well, I could start doing the things that I love, like travel. And as I planned to stretch and expand the reach and the range of my business, I also nursed a dream of being in South America, Latin America. I never really gave it much thought because it was just a dream, and there's so many dreams that I hold that I did nothing with. But as life began to get a little bit more challenging, I had my eyes set on the DR, I wanted to work in Spanish. I wanted to live in Spanish. I started feeling that I wasn't using this gift of Spanish that I had gained as a teenager. And so DR was calling my name, and I answered graciously, armed with all my paperwork, armed with everything I think I would need to start a business, armed with a plan. I entered the Dominican Republic, started looking at my residency, started figuring out how to set up business, how to grow, how to thrive, what was the culture there. And being Caribbean, I figured it would be a very easy process. As it turned out, it was not quite so. As such, my mind decided that maybe I needed something more familiar. DR, even though it's Caribbean, it is 180 degrees from normal, from what I think is normal. So I left, and because I still wanted to remain in the Spanish speaking world, and also because the DR only allows you 30 days of landing without any penalties, at about 25, 28 days, I decided, you know what, I get 60, not even 60, I get 6 months landed in Mexico. I was there the year before, or some time not too far before, and even though I was just there for 5 days, I got my 6 months. So I said, okay, Mexico, here I come. But I was there initially, and all my times there have been as a tourist, or of course working in sales for a property, doing sales bits, promotions for a hotel. So landing in Mexico as this is where the word digital nomad became attached to me. As a digital nomad with 6 months landed, I was planning to make the best of it, and I did, to a point, except Mexico proved to be more expensive than I had anticipated. Living off resort, living on your own dime, doing your own grocery shopping, living among the people, turned out to be not quite what I had envisioned. And so my time in Mexico did not go as I had anticipated. And then too, with all the hurricanes and so on in that period of summer last year, it was time to move to higher ground, safer ground. And so I went back to the States. But if you think about it, even though I was trying to find my footing, I was also traveling. I was also seeing the best of all worlds. So here I was, Jamaica to the DR, DR to Mexico, and now on to Orlando. Now I had a wonderful friend who operated a hotel in Orlando, and she was always very good to my clients. It was the place I stayed while I was there, and she opened the doors again. So we were there for an extended time, and that was wonderful. That was absolutely amazing. It was a good time to work and to unwind on the property. And so my true digital nomad experience began to extend itself. And it was great. It was really, really good. It was my first time in the States with my son, absorbing life as it could be lived there. Because Marky, I'm still trying to figure out where am I going to ultimately live. And having spent a few weeks in Orlando and journeyed on to be with friends for Christmas and Thanksgiving in Virginia, which we had done that the year before, and that was quite nice. We faced the roughest winter of my life outside of Canada, and I don't like winter, but this past winter turned out to be one of the worst winters ever. And so I made that decision too, that nope, winter weather not for me, not gonna do this either. So post divorce, it was a good time to look at different places, different options. Where do I want to live? Head back to the DR. perhaps Panama, or perhaps Colombia. Now, as I've said in another video, Colombia had always been a place that etched itself in my heart. I really wanted to go. It was one of those things that if I didn't get to do it, it would have been a loss. And so as I toyed between Colombia and Panama, DR one, the familiarity one. So going back to the DR was a good move after the winter time, and DR was nice and warm and Caribbean, and being in Punta Cana was just right. I loved the village that we were in. It's a village I will go back to time and time again. But after that season ended, it was time to go back to the city. It was time to see if business could really unfold now that I was understanding life and culture and all of that in the DR. One of the things about the DR that I just could not like was the Spanish they spoke. Their Spanish is, I don't really want to disrespect them, but it's like somebody trying to have a conversation with a huge piece of hot potato in their mouth. It's inaudible, it's too fast, the words are not being properly articulated. They have interspersed so many words from their traditional languages that it just does not make sense to me. And as such, it became not the most comfortable. But if language were the only problem, I would have gotten around that. The bigger problem to me was the personality of the Dominicans. There's a word I use, chiquini, and that word, I use that word more in the DR than I've used in my entire life. The quick to promise and short on delivery was a huge problem. The smile into your face and disregarding their commitments on the back end was a huge problem. The prejudice, listen, I have never felt so black until I got to the DR. Not even in the US, not even in Canada was my blackness such an issue. Being black in the DR means you're from Haiti. It's so dumb. And the constant obsession that they had with the Haitian people, I couldn't work with it. I was like, it's too much. What's the big deal? You guys act as though Haiti is the end of the world. Like, forgive me, but ridiculous. So I just couldn't. I couldn't accept that my color was such an issue right there in the Caribbean. And I just could not deal with the fact that their word was not their bond. They changed their mouths as fast as people change their underwear. It's ridiculous. So there was not for me. And then one day, I just had a moment, an epiphany, and I said, you know what? I've been putting off Colombia for too long. And I never forgot. 2 days before the scheduled flight, I made my decision. Colombia it is. Went on, bought the flight, and voila. Best decision I ever made. So, if you want to hear more about Colombia and how it has been for me post-divorce, you know, you gotta come right back here, as Sheri has lots to say. Ciao for now.